So how do we build a zero-trust pipeline for open source? In this video, we will build 5 security gates between an open source dependency and production. At every gate, we will ask 3 questions. What can go wrong here? What evidence do we require? And should this component be allowed to continue? By the end, we will have a complete zero-trust pipeline that controls how open source software is selected, downloaded, built, deployed, and monitored. To make this practical, let's follow one imaginary dependency throughout the entire process. Suppose a developer wants to add a new JSON parser. It is popular, actively maintained, and clean according to the vulnerability scanner. But for our zero-trust pipeline, this is not enough. The package must pass through 5 gates. Gate 0, adoption. Gate 1, ingestion. Gate 2, build. Gate 3, deployment. Gate 4, continuous reassessment. At every stage, the package must produce enough evidence to move forward. The first security control happens before the dependency reaches CI. Ask whether you need it at all. This may sound obvious, but every dependency expands your trust boundary. You are not adding only a few useful classes or functions. You are also adding the project's maintainers, build infrastructure, transitive dependencies, vulnerability history. So before evaluating the new JSON parser, ask, can a library we already use provide this functionality? And is the value of this package worth the security and maintenance cost? The next step is to classify the dependency by criticality. Will it be used only by a development tool? Will it process untrusted input? Will it handle sensitive customer data? Will it run inside every production request? Will the whole application fail if it becomes unavailable? The more critical the dependency is, the stronger the evidence and controls you should require. Our JSON parser will process data received from external systems. That makes it important enough to evaluate carefully. Now, inspect the project itself. Is it actively maintained? Does it publish updates regularly? Does it have a security policy? Is there a clear process for reporting vulnerabilities? How many people can publish releases? Does the project protect its repository and build workflows? And can we replace it if maintenance suddenly stops? You should also inspect the dependency tree. A small direct dependency may bring in dozens of transitive packages. Those packages were not chosen by your developer, but they still become part of your system. Before adoption, use the package manager's dependency report, an upstream SBOM when one is available, or another software composition tool to understand what the library brings with it. At the end of this stage, make an explicit decision. Reject the dependency or approve it. But project approval is not artifact approval. We have decided that the project may be used. We have not yet proved that the package entering our pipeline is the release we evaluated. And that brings us to the next gate. After approval, the dependency must enter the organization through a controlled path. Without this gate, developers may install packages using direct URLs, arbitrary shell scripts, unofficial mirrors, manually copied files, or whatever method they prefer. That makes it almost impossible to answer a basic question: where did this artifact come from? Zero Trust pipeline should provide one approved entrance. Dependencies should be retrieved through organization-approved package managers, registry proxies, or artifact repositories. The proxy gives the organization one place to enforce policy, record what was downloaded, and prevent direct access to uncontrolled sources. You can also preserve approved artifacts even if an upstream package is later changed or removed. But an approved source is only the beginning. We also need to identify the exact artifact. Package names are not enough. Version ranges, such as version 4 or later, allow the dependency selected by the build to change over time. A build that works today may download a different release tomorrow. So, pin exact versions. Use Lockfiles where the ecosystem supports them. Verify package manager checksums. For container images and other suitable artifacts, pin immutable cryptographic digests. The goal is simple. The artifact reviewed today must be the artifact retrieved tomorrow. Now, verify identity and origin. If the package provides a signature, check it automatically. A valid signature helps establish which identity signed the artifact and whether its contents changed after signing. But remember the rule from the previous video. A signature is evidence, but not a verdict. A compromised signing key can sign malicious software perfectly well. That is why we also want provenance. Provenance connects the artifact to the source repository, commit, build workflow, and build environment that produced it. Trust the release, not merely the project. For especially critical components, you may require reproducible builds or rebuild the package from reviewed source inside your controlled environment. This provides stronger evidence that the artifact corresponds to the source you examined. The same rules apply to container-based images. They should come from approved source. They should be pinned to an exact digest. Their signatures and available provenance should be verified. Their SBOMs should be available for inspection. And the publisher should have a clear maintenance and update policy. Hardened-based images can help here by reducing unnecessary components and providing additional security evidence. For example, well-soft hardened images are distributed with security metadata, such as signatures and SBOMs, that can be verified during ingestion. Next, scan the dependency before admitting it. Do not ask only, does it have a CVE? Ask several separate questions. Has the package been identified as malicious? Does it contain known vulnerabilities? Does it violate license, source, or organizational policy? Is the selected version prohibited? Is the package unexpected for this implication? These checks may lead to different decisions. A known malicious package should usually be blocked immediately. A vulnerable package may require risk assessment. You may consider vulnerability severity, known exploitation, reachability, component criticality, and whether the fix is available. Not every vulnerability should trigger exactly the same response, but every decision should be deliberate and recorded. At this point, our JSON parser has a passport, but the package has not yet become safe. It is about to enter one of the most dangerous parts of the software lifecycle, the build environment. The build environment processes source code, third-party dependencies, plugins, and scripts that may be compromised. So, it should be treated as a high-risk execution zone. The first requirement is isolation. Run builds inside ephemeral environments. Each build should begin from a clean state and disappear after completion. Use sandboxing or container isolation where appropriate. Restrict access to the host system. And do not mix unrelated workloads inside the same long-lived runner if they have different trust levels. The second requirement is least privilege. The build should receive only the credentials it needs. Those credentials should be short-lived and narrowly scoped. Network access should also be restricted. The build should communicate only with approved repositories and services. This matters because malicious installation scripts often need somewhere to send the secrets they steal. And restricting network access does not make malicious code harmless, but it can make exploitation significantly harder and limit damage. The build should also run security checks automatically. Scan source code where appropriate. Scan resolved dependencies. Check for secrets. Detect unexpected changes in the dependency tree. Apply policy to build configuration. And record the results. But the build must do more than consume evidence. It must also produce evidence for the artifact it creates. Generate an SBOM from the actual build output. This is important. The dependency information we inspected before adoption described what we expected to use. The final SBOM describes what actually ended up in the build artifact. Those two things are not always identical. Generate provenance that links the artifact to the source repository, the exact commit, the workflow, the builder, and the relevant build parameters. Then, sign the completed artifact. The signature allows later stages to verify its identity and detect modification. Finally, calculate and preserve the artifact digest. At the end of this gate, the build output should be an artifact accompanied by evidence. Our JSON parser is now included in the final application. The build succeeded. The SBOM contains the expected version. The provenance identifies the approved workflow. And the resulting artifact has been signed. Now, we've reached the next question. How do we guarantee that this exact artifact, and not something substituted later, reaches production? A secure build is useless if a different artifact is deployed. An attacker may replace an artifact in a registry, a release tag may be moved, a deployment configuration may point to the wrong image, or somebody may rebuild the application outside the approved pipeline and deploy it manually. So before deployment, the release must pass another policy gate. First, verify the artifact signature. Was it signed by an approved build identity? Has the artifact changed since signing? Second, verify the provenance. Was created from the expected repository and commit? Did it come from approved workflow? Was it produced by the correct build environment? Third, compare the artifact digest. The digest selected for deployment must match the digest produced and approved during the build. This proves that the artifact crossing the deployment gate is the artifact that passed the earlier checks. Fourth, inspect the final SBOM and related attestations. Does the artifact contain the expected components? Did an unapproved package appear? Did the build use the prohibited base image? Is required evidence missing? Then, apply policy. If the evidence is incomplete or does not match, deployment stops. But even after the artifact passes every check, do not give it unlimited trust. Verification reduces uncertainty, but it does not eliminate risk. The application should still run with the minimum permissions it needs. Restrict file system access. Restrict outbound network access. Remove unnecessary operating system capabilities. Limit access to secrets. Use narrowly scoped cloud permissions. And isolate the workload from unrelated systems where possible. This gives us 2 layers of defense. Before deployment, verify that the artifact is the one you approved. After deployment, limit damage if the artifact is still compromised. Our application is now running in production. The JSON parser passed the adoption review. It entered through the approved proxy. Its exact version and integrity were verified. It was built inside an isolated pipeline. The final artifact received an SBOM, provenance, signature, and digest. And deployment accepted only that exact artifact. Are we finished? No, because trust expires. Deployment is not the moment a component becomes permanently trusted. It is the moment continuous evaluation begins. A dependency that is clean today may receive a critical vulnerability tomorrow. Maintainer account may be compromised. Package may later be identified as malicious. The project may change its release process. Or active maintenance may simply stop. So, continuously monitor the components used in production. Watch for new vulnerability disclosures, malicious package reports, maintainer or publisher compromises, changes in project activity, and changes in support status. But monitoring is useful only if you know where the component is deployed. When new advisory appears, you need to answer: which applications contain this package? Which container images? Which environments? Which versions? And which business services are affected? This is where the SBOM created during the build becomes useful. It is not a document generated for compliance and then abandoned in an archive. It connects an advisory to the systems that may require action. Once the affected deployments are identified, prioritize the response. A vulnerable component is not always exploitable in every application. Reachability analysis can help determine whether the vulnerable code path is actually used. VEX statements can communicate whether a vulnerability affects a specific product and why. These signals help teams distinguish between a critical vulnerability that is remotely reachable in production and a vulnerable library that is present but cannot be executed in the deployed configuration. Use Reachability and VEX to prioritize remediation, but not to make excuses. For critical dependencies, prepare for upstream failure. Know which alternative libraries are available. Know how difficult replacement would be. And be ready to upgrade quickly. If the dependency is essential but abandoned, decide whether your organization can maintain it eternally or obtain commercial support. Open source should not be treated as external infrastructure that will maintain itself forever through optimism and unpaid weekends. If your business depends on a project, its sustainability is part of your supply chain security. Now, let's put the whole process together. A developer requests a new dependency. Before adoption, the organization decides whether it is really needed. The dependency is classified by criticality. The project and its transitive dependencies are evaluated. An explicit approval decision is recorded. If approved, the package enters through the controlled registry proxy or artifact repository. Its exact version, hash, or digest is pinned. Available signatures and provenance are verified. The package is checked for known malicious behavior, vulnerabilities, and policy violations. Then, the build begins inside the isolated, ephemeral environment. Credentials are short-lived. Network access is restricted. Security checks run automatically. The build produces the final artifact together with an SBOM, Provenance, signature, and digest. Before deployment, policy verifies all of that evidence. The signature must be valid. The provenance must identify the approved source and workflow. The digest must match the reviewed build. And the final artifact must contain only expected components. After deployment, runtime permissions remain restricted. The component is continuously monitored. And every new release must pass through the gates again. This is the central idea. No single control creates a zero-trust pipeline. The pipeline works because each stage produces evidence for the next stage. The adoption process approves the project and intended use. The ingestion process verifies the exact external artifact. The build produces a new internal artifact with a verifiable history. The deployment gate confirms that this exact artifact is being released. And production monitoring determines whether the trust decision is still valid. You do not need to invent every control from scratch. There are several established frameworks and guides that can help you. For example, NIST SP 800-207 defines the core zero-trust principles, including explicit verification, least privilege, and continuous evaluation. NIST Secure Software Development Framework provides broader guidance for protecting development environment, securing toolchains, and producing well-secured releases. The Secure Supply Chain Consumption Framework focuses directly on consuming open-source software safely. It covers inventory, scanning, malicious package prevention, and rebuilding components in trusted environments. OpenSSF card provides practical guidance for evaluating open-source projects. Its scorecard tool can also collect repository security signals, such as branch protection, security policies, dangerous workflows, dependency updates, and maintenance activity. And SLSA provides a structured model for increasing confidence in source and build integrity through provenance and attestations. Use these frameworks as sources for controls and best practices. I will include the references in the video description. Zero Trust CI/CD pipeline does not ask whether a package comes from a trusted place. It asks for evidence at every stage. And every release must earn trust independently. Your pipeline should be the system that makes it prove it. If this video was useful to you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to our channel, and until next time.